what base this island was made free. Now, on the letterhead of Jacques, Emperor First of Haiti, comma, Empire of Freedom. That is the letterhead of Jean Jacques Dessalines, General Jean Jacques Dessalines. When he became Emperor of Haiti, his letterhead is clearly written. So we did not, by ignoring all that, we talk about all the time about the first republic, the first Black Republic. But prior to the first Black Republic, we created the empire. And what kind of empire? The empire of freedom. And since Dessalines was a man of his word, he put his money where his word was. In the budget of 1805, there is a line where we set money aside, even though we didn't have enough for ourselves, but we took out of what we had and anticipated that others will be fighting for freedom and they will need help. And that's why in this budget of 1805, we find that money for those fighting for freedom. And that's why when Miranda was fighting for freedom in Ecuador, he got into trouble. French told them they were going to help him, lied, arrested him, etc., etc. US, same thing, tricked him. In the end, he came to Haiti. He met with Dessalines, and Dessalines gave him people, troops, boats, money, and weapons to go and continue the fight for freedom. So when you put those two things together, why did Dessalines create an empire, not a republic?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and not any old kind of empire of freedom. So the man had the vision that even though today we were the only one free, others will do the fight, but others might need help in order to be successful. So as the older sister, Haiti prepared herself in every way to help and support the others when they were fighting for freedom. And down the road, when Bolivar came, he met with Pétion. Pétion repeated exactly what Dessalines had done with Miranda.
And that also continued even, what would you say, the Second World War, where the Jews wanted to, they needed a place to go to as far as to leave Europe, and Haiti was welcoming to them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's throughout her life. Haiti is the country that has helped. There is, if we were to make a list of all the countries that Haiti has helped, we probably wouldn't stop. The show would go on for the week or something. So, yes, Haiti has always helped everyone else. Not only we are actively involved in the freedom of all the South American countries. Haiti sent help to Greece, sent help to Belgium. Haiti sent help to different African countries. Haiti has continuously helped. Haiti was a primary member, founder of the OAU, the Organization of the Organization of American States, or something, OAS. Mm-hmm. So, but once the US was not part of it, once all the papers were done, everything was set, and the big day, the opening day was coming, well, the US sent in money and demanded that Haiti be put out so it would become a member. So, it's throughout. We don't know our history. We don't know the things that matter. That's what we need to know. That which is important, not what our enemies want us to know about ourselves. We have to know who we are and understand what is this intrinsic connection between Haiti and freedom. Freedom everywhere on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
in every form. When the US was going through what they call the Big Depression, Haiti was among the first countries to send $1 million to the US to help them get back on their feet.
Isn't that amazing?
Uh-huh.
That's amazing. And those stories and history will never tell us that because it is his story.
Our street that we need to know.
Yes. Yes. But what were the roles of the women during the revolution? I mean, we had some great women warriors at that time as well. Who were they?
Actually, when we will know our true artistry and not be repeating, tant que Jacques répète, repeating what our enemies say is our artistry, then we will understand the role of women is vital. Even in some letters by Toussaint Louverture to General Lavaux, when he's explaining how the troops function, he says 1/5 of every troop is women. So we're not talking about an occasional woman here and there. Toussaint also explained that one of the things they do is that when they go to fight, the women had to be the first one. No, I'm sorry. The children were the first one to crawl on the battlefield because they had to go to the enemy camps. Many times they come for a battle, but they don't have all the weapons they need, all the ammunition and things that they need to for that. So the children go from our camp, crawl over to enemy camp, and go get the stuff we need and crawl back to bring it to them. Of course, some children died in the process. Now, the second people to get on the battlefield was the women. And one of the tasks that was exclusively to the women is to crawl onto the enemy camp and dismantle the cannon. Because, we had no cannons. And with one cannon, one bullet, they killed dozens of us easily. Sometimes to some certain, different size, different this and that, could kill 20, 30, 40 people, one bullet. So the women had to crawl over to the enemy camp and find ways to dismantle the cannon. And in some cases, they tell you very often the women with new babies would take their babies to war. The newborn babies were also at war.
Wow.
They would tie the baby to their sides or to their back, but they were not leaving their baby behind.
Behind, correct.
Yes. So the mother would take the child as she goes towards the cannon, and if at some point she can't find something to dismantle the cannon, she would take her newborn baby and stuff it to the cannon's mouth.
Oh my goodness. This is, I would even say the revolution was a family affair because everyone participated.
Absolutely. That is the key to understanding the Haitian Revolution. Okay?
How long did that preparation take?
It's a continuous thing. It's not like precisely because it is a family affair. It's not like some general is going to make the big strategy and we're going to do it this way. That came at some point. But in reality, each family who would wake up to the need of freedom would begin whatever strategy they could, and on the battlefield would put in whatever tactics were possible. So, but one thing, everybody was trained. The 2-year-old knew what to do if we were attacked. The 4-year-old knew what to do. The 10-year-old had its task. Everybody knew what they had to do under attack. Or if we were attacking, here is the role of each of the different members of the family.
Correct.
They often mention that Toussaint Louverture's godfather, Pierre Simon Baptiste, was a part of Toussaint's education, etc., etc. Yes, but what they never tell us, at the time of Toussaint being arrested, Pierre Simon Baptiste was 116 years old.
Whoa.
We're talking about,
116.
yes, 116 years old. How does someone survive slavery?
For that long.
And we're not talking about 116 years old sitting in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about 116 years old, very active.
Being active.
When they arrested Toussaint, the French said nobody should be with Toussaint. They tie him behind a horse, they're dragging him from Henry to Gonaïves. One person did not obey the French, Pierre Simon Baptiste. He would, every so often, when Toussaint would fall, be discouraged, and let himself be dragged by the horse, he would show up and say, "Get up, child, get up. In our family, we don't lay down and die. Get up." And that would force Toussaint to stand up, to get back on his feet and walk behind that horse all the way to Gonaïves. Go look at how many kilometers from Henry to Gonaïves.
To Gonaïves.
This 116-year-old man walked. Go look. Well, every so often, every time they hear his voice, they're shooting at him. He would hide. And then when they think he's no longer there, the next thing, when Toussaint is on the ground, he pops up again. Well, and Toussaint's adoptive mother, Grande Pélagie, is 105 years old at the time of Toussaint's arrest. Both of these people, I have not been able to trace what happened to them after Toussaint's arrest.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how long they lived, but I know how old they were up until the day they arrested Toussaint.
But Baina, also, one of the work that you do is to talk to the what we call griot.
True.
What can you talk to us about that, please?
Actually, it is precisely once I start realizing Grande Pélagie, 105, Pierre Simon Baptiste, 116 years old, Tante Cécile Fatima, who organized Wakaima, passed at transition at 112. Empress Félicité transitioned at 110. I said, wait a minute. If in the past we have all these people who lived all these many years, it cannot have disappeared since. So if we had all that strength to survive slavery and live, then I need to go and find out, are there Haitians today that are, because everything you read says, oh, Haitian lifespan. Lifespan.
Yeah, 60 years old. Not even that.
Usually give us 60.
Yeah.
42, 49, under 50, generally.
Yes.
Huh. I said, I got to check. So I started going about and questioning people. And then, the person would say, like, I remember in particular, Tonton Canis, non pas Tonton Canis, Père Canis, ok, Père Canis. Père Canis comment il est en forme, Père Canis qui l'âge 114 l'année.
Wow.
And this is a man I'm meeting in a market who is very active, doing, minding his business.
At 114 years old.
Right. Nobody helping him. And in the market, you get pushed around. You get,
of course.
He's there doing what he has to do. So we met a couple times, we talked, and I realized this man fends for himself. Nobody helps him. He has to find money to pay his rent. He has to find his food. And what does he do? He makes bottles. If you are weak, you are generally unhealthy, he will make a bottle that would bring you back to vitality, and that's what he does. So at 114, I met him, we talked a few times, and then we lost touch. I lost touch, probably not him. I lost touch because I was the one who used to go to him. And then again, I'm gonna fall on the same guy, which I thought at some point, well, he probably passed. I meet him again. He's 119 years old. I said, ooh. And he remembers when we met the first time. He's the one, in fact, he's the one who recognized me the second time.
At 119 years old?
Yes.
Okay.
We met a few years ago. We were at in the market. There I was in Port National when we met that second time. And I said, oh boy, we're not gonna lose, I'm not gonna get out of touch with you anymore, blah blah blah. So we, exchanged, and things were already, kind of difficult for him, but he didn't have the vitality 5 years ago. But he didn't, he was still fending for himself. Nobody did anything for him. So anyway, to make a long story short, ultimately, at 122, I took him into my home.
What?
Yes. Because here he was no longer very healthy. When I brought food to his house, some people would come and steal it. Different things, like he had his coffin, he had everything prepared for when he dies. People stole all that.
Because he wasn't ready to go.
So then I took him to my home, and he lived with me until he was 126. That's when he passed.
At 126 years old?
Yes. And at 123, he broke an arm. We always say, Zogan moun pa pran?
Pa pran, yes.
Zogan moun pran. Within a couple of months, his arm was normal, back to normal, just the way it was before.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned a great deal with these people. So yes, not all people who are 100 plus are griots. Don't make that mistake.
Okay.
Some people are not interested in what happened. Some people are not interested in what happened in the general public. They could tell you what happened, whose child they are, their great-grandparents, they're when at what age, their mother, they're this and they're that. But what happened in Haiti,
they will not be able to tell you.
No, they're not, interested. Whereas when you meet someone who is interested, like Père Nicolas, he was 112 when I met him. And then when we sat down, and one day I asked, qui président songe? Which president do you remember? He said, oh, I know them all. I said, oh, I know them all. Yeah. The first chief of this country, this is a black man who stomped his foot on the ground and he said, slavery must stop. And so he did. I said, oh, and what's his name? Jean Jacques Dessalines. I said, oh. And then he looked at me and said, do you know what slavery is, little girl? And, well, I'm not so sure. He said, slavery is when the white man was forcing the black man to go through the eye of a needle.
Ooh. That is the meaning of slavery to him.
And he was absolutely right. This man, with a one sentence, he would give you the whole history. The next person to run Haiti is King Henry. He wrote Haiti's independence in stones so Haitians would not forget. One sentence. Yeah, this is the man who gave you the Citadel, who gave you the Chateau Sans Souci, who gave you Palais 365 Portes. But the man has created an image, a simple image. He wrote the independence. So Dessalines gave us independence, and Christophe wrote the independence in stones so we would never forget.
Right now, let's talk about your foundation, Fondation Félicité. Why is it called Fondation Félicité, and who was Empress Félicité?
All right. Fondation Marie-Claire Heureuse Félicité Bonheur Dessalines.
Bonheur, Dessalines.
So Marie-Claire Heureuse Félicité Bonheur was a woman who went through slavery for the first 22 years of her life, then was purchased by an artist, a French artist, who wrote quite a few things about the beauty of this woman. And ultimately, she married, and Dessalines was her third husband. This is a woman with a clear vision as to what it takes for a society to grow. So he would say, for example, generally in Haiti, in the colony, the practice was, if your husband is general, they call you la générale. If your husband is colonel, they call you la colonel, la colonel. And Marie-Claire is the one woman I found who refused this title, and it's an honor to be called la générale, la colonel. She refused it. She says, no, I have enough names, you could choose anyone. Marie, Claire, Heureuse, Félicité. Call me one of those names, I will respond. But that, not for me. There is only one military person in our family, and that's Jean Jacques. Me, I'm interested in education, health, and justice. This woman contributed when they were writing the original Constitution of Haiti, the Imperial Constitution of 1805. She participated in the writing of this Constitution. So it makes me laugh when in 80s, 90s, I hear women talking about being the first Haitian woman to participate in writing the Constitution. You know, women, when we know our history, we would know women in the army. Under Christophe, a woman was at the head of the army. They called her General Tiwa.
A woman?
Yes, she was the one at the head of the army under Christophe. Women held every position in Haiti till this day. We are more advanced than a lot of countries. For example, we've already had a woman president.
Correct.
But people who want to give us lessons on feminism or on democracy, they have not. So we have to understand our history better. We have to capture the vital, the essential information. It's not so much the details, but only a detail when that details underline essence. That's when the detail is important.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So Fondation Félicité is interested in doing the research in our history so that we can find the element that can build up our identity. Because the problem for all of our people on the planet, X and still colonized, X and still enslaved, the problem is, the fundamental problem is a lack of knowledge of self. And when you don't know who you are, your identity is damaged. You copy anything from anyone. You think behaving like a slaver, like a colonizer, is a wonderful thing to be. You know, very often when I look at some of our countries, they might be criticizing the head of state because he takes so much of the wealth, the collective wealth. So he has 100 cars, he has 2, 5, 20 housing, chateaus in his, for his personal use. Well, that's exactly what a colonizer used to do. So it's not this person that's the problem. The problem is that we have to understand that is a colonizer's behavior. When people are arresting people, beating people up, doing all kind of, that's a typical colonizer and enslaver's behavior.
Correct.
So if we understand the mental structure that makes us do those things, then we can correct them. When you become head of state, if you know those things, you will not behave that way. But as long as we think Jacques is president and Jacques is doing this, that's horrible, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's remove Jacques. Let's put Baina. Baina is going to be just as bad. Baina went to the same school. She learns
The
the
same
same
school.
thing. She
Exactly.
admired the same. She was forced to admire people like Voltaire, the most racist literary person of his time. We were made to admire people like Molière. You were admiring Engels, Frederick Engels, who said black people have no soul, black Africa has no history. We should just go take all the land, take all the wealth. That's who you're admiring as so-called philosopher. So
Yes.
when you become head of state, you will behave exactly like all people who have that in their brain as something good.
That's right. So the three elements of the foundation, Fondation Félicité, is health, education, and justice.
Exactly. So, and we say, in order to change our behaviors, we need not an education that copies slavers and colonizers' behavior instructions. We need to create a different instructional content. When the content is different, then the behavior, the mental will change, and when the mental changes, the behavior will change. And this is nothing new. Frantz Fanon wrote books about it. Many of our Amos Wilson wrote books about it. A lot of our thinkers have analyzed the problem, have come up with solutions, except that those who claim to be politicians, they don't read.
They don't. Baina, how long have you been teaching?
As long as I can remember. My grandmama was not my grandma.
You know why I'm asking you this is because I want to hear. I've heard your story of your grandmother, and I just want to be able for you to share that with us. Who was that lady?
Julienne Dronette, woman from La Rivière Banane in Benin, near Benin. So, but actually she was, I often say she's my first human teacher, I would say. But actually at 3 and 4, I've always been told that I used to take all the shoes in the house and take them as my students and teach them. I used to have a school with stones, with sticks, anything. I would put anything, line them up, 10, 20, 30 of whatever I could find when I didn't have no dolls. Then I would have a school. So then when I was 10, then I realized my grandmother she was having all of us recite. Some of us were older than me. But when I was reciting, I realized she's holding the book upside down. So then, hey, she don't know how to read. But yet she's so, allez étudier, vous ne connaissez pas la leçon. She would have all these comments that she had. And so I realized, I hesitated. She said, raconte leçon. Achita, allez étudier. Vous ne connaissez pas la leçon. So I took my book, but I knew my lesson. But I knew what happened. Ultimately, I told my grandmother, she don't know how to read. I know that. So she says, if you ever say that, you lose your tongue.
Yeah.
So then, and then later on, she came back and she said, you know what? You're going to teach me. Since you're the one to see that I don't, you're going to teach me.
That's right.
So at night, she would put all of us to bed and then wake me up when everybody's asleep. Go to the end of the house, to the other end of the house, and that's where we would have our lessons. So that was my first student.
Would you say that she was the person that inspired you, or she was your mentor?
Absolutely. She's one of my key teachers. From her, I learned, the first thing I learned is that not everything you see, you should speak. When you see anything, speak to the person directly involved. Don't go tell others until you've spoken. Until today, I have this That's the way I function. If I see you do something I'm not pleased with, you're the first person I'm going to say, you know what, this I'm not, you know. And then if I feel I need advice or counsel, I will choose very carefully who I will discuss this with and to get more counsel. But the first person who will know I'm unhappy, it will be you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things. The second, choosing when to speak. You don't just speak things, anywhere, any place. It's like today, very often I look at, no matter what, let's say, governments are doing, everything has to be on TV, on the radio. Come
Yeah.
on.
Hmm.
I mean,
On Twitter,
right.
on social media.
Please. That's against nature.
Hmm.
I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. And even if we say skin, you only see a little bit of my skin. I only see a little bit of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Most of your skin I don't get to see. But when we get to very serious stuff, like the heart, the lungs, the liver, the intestines, I don't get to see them ever. And you don't get to see mine either. So nature already tells us that to live is to be mindful of what we expose. We must be mindful as to when to expose, what we expose, how we expose.
And how we expose.
Absolutely. I'm happy with you. I don't have to come and say, what shot? No. I need to take charge of Baina. It's okay, calm down. Yeah, he did. Well, it seemed that he did. Jacques, you know what? It seemed to me that you did this, and that. Can we talk about it? Did I understand it correctly? And we can have a conversation about it, and then ultimately we can decide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vodou
Baina,
teaches us that life is a road. On that road, there are many crossroads. At every crossroads, you have to be very careful, very attentive as to how you will continue. Are you going to continue forward? Will you turn right? Will you turn left? Will you step back?
mm-hmm.
Go back on your steps. So if you are living a life totally unconscious, then obviously it's not your life. You exist, but you're not living your life. To live your life, you have to be conscious and make conscious choices at every corner. And that's what enables you to say, I took a right turn. I don't think I'm on the right way. This is not going to take me to Jacques' house. Let me go back to that crossroad and look at it again and try to figure out which way.
Correct.
But if we're just flopping, well.
Baina, you work with kids on a daily basis. Your foundation works with kids on a daily basis. Yourself, you as a professor, what would you say that you learned growing up that you still carry with you today that you would pass on to one of the students?
Well, one thing is certain. We are born who we are. School didn't teach me how to be a teacher. I was born a teacher. And everything we do, we're born with it. The doctor comes in as a doctor. So the thing that we transmit, we want to transmit to whoever we are in contact with, is the 6 steps to learning to know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
0, question everything, especially you. Ask yourself, Aina, why are you wearing a scarf today? Why are you wearing blue? Why do you wear jewelry? Why did you did not wear jewelry yesterday? See, Question yourself so you understand what you're doing. And of course, if you question yourself, you'll find that you will question everything and everywhere and everyone around you. People don't like that. Doctors never liked me. When I take my children to the pediatrician, I'm not going to go and you say, okay, he has this, and you write something and say, go buy that. No. Why do you think this is what you think he has? What is this medicine going to do? What are the side effects of this medicine? What are there any natural ways for me to do the same for my child? Well, doctors don't like that. So, but that's a must. Whether you're dealing with doctor, you have to ask questions. You have to know.
Mm-hmm.
Question helps to build courage. If you're afraid to even ask a question, that means your courage level is very, very, very low. So questions build courage. Courage enables you to speak your own convictions, not repeat what people say or what everybody is saying. Think of your own word. What do you want to say? What do you want to transmit? So question, courage, word. Then you can speak what you believe in truly, what you're convinced of. Next step is observation. You have the ability to observe. Mother Nature is a huge book. And even if you never went to school one day, she will teach you so many things if you're just attentive. Everything that comes in front of you will teach you something. So observation. Then meditation. You must take the time to sit down, meditate, preferably in the dark. Turn off all the light. All this light everywhere all the time is not the best thing, neither for your eyes nor for your spirit. So, do create darkness and do take the time for silence, meditation. And once you've done those 5 steps, you're ready for the next step, which is action. Action should never occur without having gone through question, courage, observations, word, then meditation. Then you're ready for action. And after action, you can do creation. That means bring something that the community needs that they didn't have before, to serve the community. Mm-hmm. Your actions may be to serve yourself more. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing something for yourself as long as you're clear. I create this store so I can make money. That's it. Mm-hmm. And I create this center for children who are without parents so they can have a place to come and learn. 2 different things. I've done my action and I've done my creation. And every time you go through these 6 steps, you get to know yourself a little bit more.
A little bit better.
Yes. If you have never served others, then you have no idea who you are. You are the most dangerous being on this planet.
Baina, some people tend to believe that history repeats itself. Do you believe in that? And if so, what do you see for our beloved country, Haiti, today?
It's not our history repeats itself on automatic. If it is automatic, then it's not worth anything. Our history repeats itself. It's on a spiral. It's like the earth. The earth repeats itself all the time because it goes from, let's say, from 0 to 24 hours. So it rotates on itself every day. But yet, it also turns around the sun, and it takes a year to do that. So that's a different level. And at every time, some things it's never identical. Even though it's a repetition, creation is always part of that repetition. So, yes, history is vital. Yes, history can repeat itself if there is no input, if there is no understanding. Example, right now, our people are in full-fledged repetition of slavery. It is a slavery form without chains. Now, slavery, the slave master is Google. The slave master is web. You want to know? Google it. Or
Yeah.
Google said, you know. Uh, so we do not think for ourselves. I don't say I don't go to Google. Yeah, I go to Google and I get some information. But I get the information. I analyze the information. I check it against other things that I know. I may check it against some people who live that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will be clear on what my conviction is. But to just go, Google it, and Google said Baina Bello is 49 years old. And when Baina says, I'm 73, said, no, no, Google said you're 49.
And you believe Google.
There's something
Yeah.
wrong there. Okay? So anytime we're functioning with no questioning, no analyzing, that's the first form of slavery. We go to school and the school make us memorize. That is a form of slavery. When you read a book and you don't question any of the elements that has been brought to your attention, that is a level of slavery. So if I get up in the morning, I turn on the radio, and the radio tells me, I used to say this years ago in the 70s, that the way they present the weather is very enslaving. And that I expect that one day the television will say, oh, it is very cold outside, it's snowing, and they're giving all the images of snow and everything. But then if you look out the window, you see it's not snowing. If you step outside the door, it's very nice, it's warm, it's not, but you will say, the TV said it's snowing, so you come out, you close your door, you turn on the heat. Conditioning is the worst kind of slavery because it's mental slavery. Oh, I can't go in public with this because that's not in fashion anymore. I have to get a new dress, a new this, a
Right.
new car, because no, something is wrong there. What is the purpose of a car? To get you from one point to the other. So you need a car that will get you from one point to the other. That's it. It doesn't have to be this brand, that. No. So today we are more enslaved than we were in the 1800s. History is repeating itself, but the enslavers have gone to a higher level, and we are still at the level we say, oh, I'm free because I have no chains. I'm free because I could spend my money and whatever, but you only buy things they tell you to buy.
Correct.
That's not spending your money when you want to.
Correct.
How many times have you said to yourself, you know what, this week I want to spend not a penny. I'm going to keep all my money in my pocket. I'm going to take my money out the bank and keep it in my house because I want to see my money. I don't want my money to be all electronics. When have you done that? If you're a free person, you make choices that are your own choices, not always what they want you to do. I rejected the whole credit card thing for at least 6 or 7 years. Everybody had a credit card but me. Of course, it was complicated. When I would go somewhere, with the money in your hand, they don't want because. But hey, I'm proud of myself that I did 7 years. And for everything, I do the same thing. I ask myself, what do you want by now? What do you believe? What is your conviction about this or that? And then I make a choice according to my own convictions. And
There's always two sides to everything,
of
to
course,
any stories.
yeah. But you have to use your brain. You have to be thinking
Correct.
to realize that. Otherwise, they always make you think it's just one way. There is no other way but.
Mm-hmm.
Look, right now, any program that you will want to put on your computer, 5 years ago, they would say agree or disagree. Today, there is no choice. They just say agree.
Correct.
That's slavery. And you call that democracy? No, absolutely not.
Haiti,
No way of it.
I see right now the population, the youth makes up about what 60%. Still a young generation that lives in Haiti. How do you see the future for Haiti with the kids, with the youth that we have? Because you're talking about, well, you've mentioned the enslavement that we are on today, and the social media and everything else. That's really taking over Haiti as well.
Thank goodness that's not true.
That's not true?
No.
I'm very happy to hear that.
First of all, Haitians are very creative people.
Okay.
And our youth, they just bubble over with creation. Yes, there is, we participate in the web. Okay. Uh, oh, there's a song that, okay, you see the whole concept of the web. Get des ariens, woy, woy, get des
Yeah.
ariens. Get des ariens, woy, woy, get des ariens, woy, woy, get des ariens. Get des ariens, yo fait complot pour yo tuer
Pour yo tuer,
nous.
ouais.
Woy, get des ariens. So, get des ariens is who? It's the what you call the arien? What is it in English?
Spider?
The spider. Okay? So the spider who creates the web. So the concept of the web, we've had it for years. And we have tons of songs about it. Now, this concept is put into in electronic form.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not foreign to Haitians. And that's why a lot of our young people naturally can create their own stuff. The problem is we have no government. There is no one defending Haiti's interests. And I'll give only one example, but there are many of them. Two young men, one was 19, one was 22, created a program, an application. Well, don't hold me because I don't know the difference between program and application. So anyway, they created something that could teach people to read without a teacher. I contacted Ministry of Education, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of this, and told them, here, there are two Haitians, these young people have created this, it's wonderful. They should be patented, they should be protected, they should be helped, blah, blah, blah. Well, nobody replied. While I was doing all the effort to try to find help for the young men, some university abroad heard about them, landed in Haiti, bought a house for their parents, take the two children to their university, and I've never heard anything about that anymore.
Whoa.
Okay? So, if you're looking at what Haitians abroad are doing, one of the examples that comes immediately to mind is there's a young Haitian guy who was, I think he was in Chicago, I don't remember which town. In his 20s, he designed a car and he sent the design to a car company. This car company was about to go bankrupt. When they saw the design, they contacted the young man, ultimately made a contract with him, paid him so many millions and blah, blah, blah. And the car was produced. And that car company went from about to declare um, bankruptcy and zooped up. So we have to understand we have the creativity of the Haitian people in general, and a high ratio of youth is a very positive thing. But they give us a way of looking at it, just like they give us a way of looking at everything. Just like they just ignore. We have a elders population, which is also very powerful because we don't have elders in the wheelchair. We have no way anyway to push the wheelchair. So they have to walk. They have to fend for themselves because there's no government that's helping them at all. So all of this, I could look at it and say, oh yeah, they have nothing. No, or I could say, hey, that's fabulous. They're able to do all of this for themselves. So we have a dynamic youth population as well as a dynamic elders population.
Correct.
Now, what we are lacking is a program to connect all the different generations and aim the improved situation, the better situation for tomorrow. So, as long as your government is taking orders from your enemy, there will be no program for your freedom.
That's right.
As
How
long
do
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was about to ask you, how do someone help your organization? What do they do? There's a site to go to?
Yeah.
Because you are wow, the wealth of knowledge that is, that's coming from not only yourself, but your organization. How do we contact you or your organization for any type of support?
Right. Anyone who wants to support, we have created, and let me say, the youth, not me. Half of these things I don't know how to do them. But the young people in Haiti who run Fondation Félicité, they are the ones who have created the structure for us to be able to do this. So, Fondation Félicité works mostly with volunteers. And today we are blessed to have volunteers, we could say, around the planet. We have volunteers in South Africa, we have volunteers in Europe, we have volunteers, where people like National Kamit, who for the past 10 years have always helped us in different ways to the measure that they can. We had friends of Fondation Félicité in England. We have different people who put lots of people in the United States, a lot of African Americans have come to our help, or people from Haitian descent, all different people do come to help. But I want to illustrate just one. There are many ways of helping. But one time I received an email from a young man in Missouri. And he says, I've seen your videos and you cannot imagine what you've done for me. Now I'm a person working, I have blah, 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 I'm well structured. I want to come and spend 1 weekend of volunteering in Fondation Félicité in Haiti. Okay. So we agreed. He let me know what date he wants to come. He wanted to stay at a hotel. We arranged for, we picked him up at the airport. Oh, he had asked, what could he bring that might be helpful? We said, well, our biggest lacking is we have no material for multimedia to register, to record the conferences that we give, the different this and that. The young man arrived in Port-au-Prince of one Friday evening, carrying a 54-inch television, cameras, laptops, recorders, microphones. He brought everything that could get us started. Then he spent Saturday and Sunday training some of the young people how to use the material he brought. And then on Sunday, he went back to his business. And that was the first, most fascinating help that we received. I just didn't imagine. And with everything you hear, you're kind of scared of people you don't know. You wonder, blah, blah, blah. But listen, that was fabulous. We've had since then many people. We've had people like Iriola and Shaba, who I was abroad. They say they want to go to the Fondation to help. I say, okay, fine. There are people that are there. Here are the contact. They went. They spent a week training. They brought the material. They brought the programs, the applications, and now all of Fondation Felicité's books, we could just click and know where that title is if you want to consult. So people,
That's very good.
you know, that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that people do. Wonderful people. So when I hear people talking about, the youth is this, the youth is that, I don't know these youth.
Mm-hmm.
The youth that I come across are very helpful, dynamic people, and once they're termed, there's a time where they will they will do what we call permanence. That means they come to the Fondation 3, 4, 5 days a week, give 4 to 6 or 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, in return, we do give them some training. We do help them if they want to go to school. We do help them with, different things that they're doing. And once that's that time of being able to give plenty of time to the Fondation, they get into their professional life, they get married and whatnot. They don't have that much time for the Fondation, but still, once, twice, or 3 times a
They
year,
come back.
they will participate to some degree as to what is going on. We have no
Yes.
ex-volunteers.
That is great. Professor Baina Bilo, I want to say thank you. Thank you to you, to your organization. Thank you for joining us on Télé Lacaille. We are very, very grateful for your time. The work that you are doing with the youths in order for them to stay connected with their roots, just everything. Just you are a wealth of knowledge. We would love to have you back again on future on our show, and thank you.
Let me
That
take this.
the artistry that you gave us this morning. You see, I'm using the word now. Huh?
Yes, sir.
That's very important. That is very important.
That's correct. So let me take this time also to say thank you to all those who help Fondation Félicité in whatever capacity, all those who support us with in our program Baina and Friends, or to everyone, but of course to you who invited us and gave us this platform to share information with you today. Thank you very much, Jean Jacques.
See your pas comprend. On nous parlait, on nous priait. Si nous pas mettait tête ensemble, la vie pas changer, nous pas jamais lever. N'importe monde qui commande, haïtien nous yeah. Force le pas jamais changer, haïtien nous yeah. Nous lever nous pas tomber, haïtien nous yeah. C'est haïtien nous yeah.
Once again, we hope that you enjoyed our show this evening. We would also like to thank Professor Baina Bilo for being our guest tonight on Télé Lacaille. But before we leave you tonight, I would like to remind all of our viewers that the purpose of Télé Lacaille is to showcase the work that we as Haitians are doing throughout the world, our talents, our culture, our professions, and our history, and to also show to our beloved country Haiti the professionals that we have and who we are in the diaspora. So please, if you know someone who deserves to be recognized and that you would like to suggest to us for an interview, you may contact us at www.lacaille@lacailleenterprise.com, or you can go and visit us on our website at www.lacailleenterprise.com. We hope to see you again next week, and please tell a friend. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you, and good night.